Hi, welcome to Midwest Magic Cleaning. My name is methylchloroisothiazolinin hydroxymethylcellulose, and today we're going to be working on a really cluttered kitchen. Now, there are some reasons behind this being this cluttered. One, there is some compulsive spending going on here. And I can just tell that by how many duplicates of things have been bought and how long some of the things have been around as far as expiration dates go. We'll get into all that here in a little bit. But there's a lot of this that happened because there have been deaths in the family, deaths of friends. She has been in hospice with a friend of hers for quite some time and just recently got back home. I think she said she'd been pretty much a month without being back to the house. It had been quite a while. So a lot of this food and gadgets and stuff like this that you're about to see has been sitting in this kitchen for a really long time. Now, one thing that you're going to notice throughout this whole cleaning is that the entire place is covered in a really thick layer of dirt and dust. In order to understand that, you need to understand where we live. We live in a farming community that's far removed from any city. So we have a lot of houses that are in the actual proper country, where like if you go to the store, you're driving 15, 20, 30 miles to the nearest grocery store. So this is like a lot of houses where there's a quarter-mile long driveway that leads to the house, and it's dirt. When it's not raining, this dirt dries out so fast that it has the consistency of baby powder. So if anybody drives up the driveway, or we even get some wind to pick up, it blows this extremely fine powdered dirt everywhere. And it doesn't matter how good of an air filter you have in your house, this stuff is getting on everything. Now, she's going to hire us for bi-weekly cleaning, especially after she saw what we ended up doing with this kitchen. So we're going to be helping her out a lot more than what you see here. This kitchen ended up taking us 20 man-hours. It was both Jason and I filth. He is absolute filth is what he is. Anyway, both Jason and I spent 10 hours over 2 days. So 2 people doing 10 hours is 20 man-hours worth of work. We could do a lot more. There was one big cabinet that we didn't get into, and there were a bunch of drawers and stuff that we didn't get into, but we are going to get into them as we clean this house more and more. We will also be doing her basement, which has just an absolute ton of stuff in it that needs to be hauled out, and that'll be a pretty interesting cleanup because her basement is the size of my house. But we'll get to that further down the line. So where do I even know where to start on something like this? What I typically do is when a room is completely overwhelming and you don't know where to start, pick one area and say, I want to get that one thing completely clean as if that was the only thing we were brought in to do. In this case, it's her little dining room table. I wanted to get all the trash off of it, get rid of the expired food, get all the little gadgets and stuff because she likes kitchen gadgets. So get everything completely cleared off and then clean the table and liquid gold it, and the same thing with the chairs, and then put it all back together with the chairs where they normally go. And it does a couple of things. One, it shows immediate progress. So you can look back and see that this table and the surrounding area is totally done and cleared and ready to go. So it's kind of a psychological trick that you play on yourself. It kind of gives you motivation. The second reason I wanted that cleared off is because it gives us a brand new surface to put other things on. So as we're clearing off a counter, we can say, okay, the table is designated for nothing but food that's still good. So we may pile all that on there. Or we may say we've got a bunch of baking dishes that are in the way. Let's put all the baking dishes in this one area. And it helps you organize things, and which is what I like to do, is organize things in categories. So the second thing we're going to do after we've finished off the table is we're going to bounce to one of the most cluttered parts of the counter, and we're just going to go through every single item one by one and check the expiration date on everything. Now there's one thing I want to bring up because it's brought up in every one of my videos. I am aware that expiration dates are not the same as best buy dates. However, whenever you have a kitchen that's this cluttered and there are so many duplicates of every type of food, if anything is even close to the best buy date, it's going. We need all the room we can muster, and as you can see when we start opening these cabinets are absolutely cram-packed with stuff, so much that you can't fit one more thing in them. So we are going to make a massive amount of room in here by getting rid of a massive amount of trash and extras and duplicates. Now this is also kind of a big family of farmers, and they also had a restaurant, and so when the restaurant closed they had a whole bunch of stuff that went from the restaurant to them. So that a lot of this stuff was stuff that was in another business. So some of it she wants to keep, some of it she wants to get rid of, but she pretty much gave us the green light to go through there and do our things, to just go through and tornado ourselves through this kitchen and get rid of as much stuff as possible. Now, I was pretty liberal on what I kept. I could have thrown away way more stuff than what I actually did, but I also wanted to respect the things that she had here. I didn't just want to toss out things just for the sake of tossing them. Once we get the majority of the stuff off of that counter, and really the main goal is just to get rid of the expired stuff, we're going to bounce to the next easiest thing to clean, which is this little mini island in the middle of the kitchen floor. Little rolly chef carty thingy. Now your first instinct would be, I would just spin kick all the stuff off there, and that would be the fastest way to clear it off. It would be, you would just shoot a food geyser via spin kick across the room. However, we still need to check the expiration dates. So we're going to do the same thing all the way around the kitchen, checking each item one by one, keeping the stuff that's good, throwing away the stuff that's expired, and then cleaning the surface that they were sitting on so that we can start from scratch. Now, after we get this done, we're going to utilize this as kind of a snack and baking good cabinet. And to clean most of the stuff in this kitchen, I'm just using straight old Mr. Clean. It's called Clean Freak. It's really good for getting off grease, oil, and dirt. Then anything that we sanitize, I use a homemade all-purpose cleaner. We refer to it as APC here on the channel. And that is made by filling 2/3 of a spray bottle with isopropyl alcohol. I typically use 91% is the strength on that, but you can use 70%, it doesn't matter. Fill the remaining part of the spray bottle with water and then add like 5 or 6 drops of Dawn dish soap. It does two things. It's really good at shining things up. Don't really use it on wood, but you can use it on glass, mirrors, stone countertops, and metal, but it also has the added bonus of being able to sanitize really efficiently. Now, if you're really into sanitizing and your main purpose is sanitization, you can actually just get 70% isopropyl alcohol and not mix it with water, and that'll kill any germs on contact. I don't really use bleach because I'm allergic to bleach. It breaks me out really bad. But I mean, you can always just make a bleach mixture to do the same thing, but I just like alcohol better. It looks like Jason is cleaning the top of that fridge, but actually he stole all that stuff off of there because he's a thief. He's a filth bag thief is what he is. And then he just slapped all the dirt off of there with a Swiffer, but you could see the big clouds of dirt coming off. It's like that nonstop out here in the country. So I'm really glad she's bringing us in for bi-weekly cleaning, because this is a fairly good size house and she really could use the extra helping hand to keep this dust under control. And when you're buying things in bulk like she does, it's also a good idea to have somebody around who can stop you and say, okay, you're overloaded with all this. Don't buy this thing for for a while. You're good for the next 4 months on that. Just having an outside eye that can step in and say, okay, you're overloading here or you need to restock this, can sometimes be the best thing for somebody who has issues with shopping or not really knowing when to stop shopping. Because all this stuff is useful. She's not just buying junk, she's just buying too much of it. Now on this corner countertop, there's been so much stuff that's just been kind of shoved back in there over time that it's packed tightly in there. Fortunately for us, a lot of this can go into storage bins, and we have a bunch of storage bins to use. They're like those big Tupperware ones. So we're taking a lot of these things like old recipe books that you can tell haven't been used in a long time and extra gadgets that aren't really used anymore, and we can pack those away and take them downstairs to the bigger piles of clutter that she has down there, because we know we're going to clean out that room at some point, so we can just go through them then. But when you're cleaning a kitchen like this, you can tell something hasn't been used in a while because it's packed under big piles of other objects. There's no physical way for them to have gotten in there and used it. So if they haven't used it in a year or two, chances are they're not going to suddenly say, wait a minute, what did you do with my coconut slapper? I needed my coconut slapped, and now you guys have gotten rid of that and hidden it from me because you're malicious. Once all that's done, I'm just going to clean this down with Mr. Clean. Now this did have some extra sticky stuff on it, so I got a razor scraper and scraped off that, and then I did go ahead and APC this whole countertop because there's been stuff sitting on it for long enough and food's been in contact with it long enough that there's a pretty good chance there's going to be some germs there that aren't pleasant. What you didn't see was when we first got in here, I had Jason spray down the top of this stove with oven cleaner, and he hasn't really done a stove that's needed it this bad yet, so I wanted him to be hands-on. We had a bunch of extra paper towels, so instead of ruining a rag by scooping this stuff off with a microfiber, I'm just having him wad up some paper towels and use it like a snow shovel. So he's just getting oven cleaner off of this that has been sitting for, I'd say, 1 to 2 hours. Now, if you're letting oven cleaner sit on top of a stove for more than an hour or two, you can cover that with saran wrap and it will prevent the oven cleaner from evaporating. But if you're just letting it sit there for an hour or two, there's no need to cover that up. We're not letting this sit overnight because she's going to be using her stove anyway at some point later that night. We just needed this to be a quick clean just to make it usable again. So after he's done wiping all that up, he's going to spray it down with Mr. Clean and then use a razor scraper to get some of the extra gunk off. And then here in a second, I just went ahead and stepped in and took over because I've done this so many times I can do it a little quicker. So I did the same thing, soaked it down with Mr. Clean, used a razor scraper to get it off, and then I used a scouring pad to get off some of the more stubborn chunks. The goal here was not to make this look perfect. We could have spent another 10-15 minutes on it and made it look like brand new, but we're more concerned with the clutter in this kitchen and not making all of her appliances look like they just came out of a warehouse. When we start cleaning on our bi-weekly visits, this will look that way. Now, just as a temporary solution, I put all of her spices into a basket and then put the extra ones in front of the basket. Those are only being stored there temporarily because the cabinet above it is completely smashed with extra stuff. I'm eventually going to get into that cabinet, take everything out, clean it, and then put all of her spices in that so that it can all be consolidated and off the counter. Jason started to load up this little island rack thingy, and he was doing a good job with it, even though he is a disgusting pile of filth. But I wanted to redo it just slightly. I wanted to put some of the things that she uses for baking on one side, and then I wanted to load up the rest of it with their extra snacks, so bags of chips and dried fruit. Because we were so tight on room, this made a pretty good place to where, like, if they were hungry and wanted a snack, it's right out in the open, it's within reach, they don't have to open up any doors or drawers to get to it, so it made more sense to use this as kind of a snack rack. Then Jason opened up this drawer and just stole everything out of it because he's disgusting. Disgusting filth is exactly what he is, and I'm not putting up with it. We're down to a couple of boxes now. So this one fortunately wasn't cram-packed with stuff. There was only a little bit of stuff on top of it, and then underneath that was an old advent calendar. So that made it pretty easy. We put some of the stuff in storage, threw some more stuff away, and then just took the whole box downstairs. There's some more of the Tupperware storage tubs. Those things are just a miracle lifesaver. We basically just filled this with all of her kitchen gadgets. She had so many that were still in the package and unused. So obviously we don't want to throw those away, but we also don't want to leave all these in the kitchen because they're just adding to the mess. So all these are going to be stored downstairs in the basement until we get that basement cleaned out and until we free up even more space in her kitchen. This was kind of difficult to clean. This is what looks to be like a little drink station. She had a bunch of cups that came from the restaurant, and she had plastic cups and paper cups and lids and straws. And so I decided to go ahead and turn that into a restaurant style proper drink cart. The first step was getting everything pulled out, and this thing was like Narnia. Every time I pulled something out, it's like it filled in with more stuff. Like I was reaching into an alternate universe full of kitchen stuff. But eventually we ran out of stuff to pull out. The portal to another dimension closed, and I could start cleaning this off. But this is just like I was talking about in the beginning of the video. When you get something like this that's overwhelming, just move something. It doesn't matter where you put it on the floor, put it anywhere at all. Just get it off of the surface that you're wanting to clean and fix and organize. The act of moving it kicks your brain into like a different mode, a different gear. So I didn't care where I was putting that stuff. I just pulled it out and set it on the floor. Then once it was all clear, then I could Swiffer the dust off and Mr. Clean the whole cabinet, the whole little stand thingy. Then once that's done, All I got to do is start looking at all the stuff that I just pulled off and figure what I can put back on that isn't going to clutter this up. Now, we're going to fill this entire space like crazy because, again, we've got a ton of stuff, but very little space to work with. And as you can tell, she is not a minimalist, so I'm not concerned about having bare cabinets here. So what I'm doing is taking all the paper plates and all the cups and lids, and I'm going to stack those into some semblance of order toward the back. And then down below, I'm going to stack all of her. She's got like protein shakes and stuff for keto diets, and she's just got a ton of extra stuff down here that I can stack almost like it's in restaurant storage. And whenever I'm doing this, I always try to keep like stuff with like stuff. So all the vanilla goes here. All the stuff that says keto on it goes here. All the Jell-O boxes go together. But the majority of what I'm putting there is actual drinks. Kind of a neat side note, you can see an air conditioning vent, or a central air vent down there that was covered up with a bunch of stuff, and the second I pulled that off of that vent, the temperature in the room within minutes changed. You could feel it cooling off way better. So I think that just by moving that, she's actually going to see a slight reduction in her cooling bill. This is the cabinet I was talking about with all the extra spices in it. It was just too full to do anything with. And she's kind of got a mishmash of stuff. So you can tell on the top she's got some coffee cups here and some thermos stuff there and spices and random jars. I pull all of that out, and we're going to make this just the spice rack. I mean, there's going to be more stuff than just spices just because eventually we run out of spices to put in there. But for the most part, this cabinet's purpose will be spices. And if you ever are struggling to organize your own kitchen, ask that with every cabinet door that you open, every drawer that you open, ask yourself, what's the purpose of this cabinet? It really helps more than you might think. Like if you open a cabinet door and there's nothing but glasses, that's the glasses cabinet. The next cabinet may be plates and bowls. One would be pans. One would be spices. If you can keep that in mind while you're organizing, it eliminates that overwhelmed feeling because you have a goal in mind. I'm going to put all the glasses in the glasses cabinet. Then it becomes less like cleaning and more like putting together a puzzle. There was an ice maker running, the one that you saw me cleaning just a little bit ago, and the air conditioning at the same time. And so whenever I have this on silent where like I'm not narrating, I'm going to try to turn this down a little bit because I understand that sound is extremely annoying, but it's also just as annoying if I talked nonstop without taking a breath for 50 minutes. This cabinet was crazy. It's not even the craziest cabinet she had, but there were so many cups and glasses in here. Way more than anyone ever needs. She could get rid of about 80 to 90% of all of her glasses and cups and thermoses, and she would still have too many. So I packed away, I think, about 2 full Tupperware tubs full of just cups and glasses, and then kept enough for, the way I think about it is, if suddenly Thanksgiving was tomorrow, would you have enough dishes for everyone? So I kept that many cups and thermoses and all that. But you can see when I open this second cabinet, that's all plates and bowls and even more cups and more glasses. So there's just an absolute ton of this that's going into storage. Once I have everything out, I'm just going to restack the plates and bowls and basically play a game of dishes Tetris. And just by doing that, I've freed up half of that cabinet space. Then I'm going to take the glasses that are the least frequently used. In this case, there was like a set of brandy and wine glasses, and I'm putting those all in the very back of the cabinet. Then I'll take the stuff that's more frequently used, like coffee cups, thermoses, and drinking glasses, and put those within reach. Right, like dead center of the cabinet. Then I'll take things that are used for like self-defense, like say a live barking, snapping wolf, and I'll put that on the top part. That way, in case an intruder like Jason ever gets into your house, you just open that cabinet and a wolf flies out like a wolf geyser and wolfs him in the face, and then you will be thankful that you put that where you did. Here's the craziest cabinet. This was full of medication and supplements and stuff that has not been looked at in ages and ages. There were, I would say there was about 50 empty pill bottles in here. Now, fortunately, she let me throw them away. And the reason I say fortunately is because there are certain things that I run into over and over again that my clients seem to collect a lot. One is shoes, another one is purses and handbags, another is food, but for some weird reason, empty pill bottles is another. Medication just gets saved forever and ever, and there are some people I've talked to who do not want to get rid of those empty pill bottles for anything, and it becomes like an emotional attachment to them. So I'm glad that she let me throw those away. Now, as far as the prescription medication, I never even read the labels on those out of sheer privacy, because you don't know if somebody's like a werewolf and you're reading their werewolf medication, and now you know. And now that you know, they can't let you go. So I don't read them. I just take all the medication, the prescription medication that still has pills in the bottles. I will put those all together in a very obvious place, and I will tell the owner where I put them. That way they can go through them, and if anything is expired, they can dispose of those properly. But that saves me from having to find out the hard way that they are a Dracula. When I organize cabinets like this, I always put like medicine together. So the non-prescription type of stuff that I'm putting in here, I'll put all the cold medicine together. I'll put all supplements in a line. If there are duplicates of supplements or whatever, I'll put the one that's half empty in front and the brand new unopened one behind it. That way they can just finish it in a line. All heartburn stuff goes together. So when they open up this cabinet, at a glance, they can pretty much know where all their stuff is. Almost everything in this little swinging cabinet here was bad. I think about a quarter of it was good, and 3/4 of it was throwawayable. Most sauces have long shelf lives, and things like mustard and maple syrup. She had even more spices in here, like a lot more spices. I don't think I threw away any spices, or if I did, it was very little, because spices typically don't have much of an expiration date. They just lose flavor over time. At one point, I would like to pull all those out again, put them on the cabinets, and stand there with her and say, let's sort these. I'll put them in order of, here's Italian seasoning and here's garlic salt and blah blah blah. Then we can see how many of each she has, and we can start thinning out the amount that she's got, because I think we could get rid of about 75% of what she has now, and she would be just fine. She would still have a full cabinet full of that stuff. We are on day 2, by the way. Once you saw me wearing this blue shirt, that's when day 2 started. And Jason is about to come in. He was actually working on a client's house this morning. Whenever you hear me say client, that's a paying client. Like I own a cleaning company, and Jason is my oldest son, and he works for me. Then I have another employee named Daniel that I'm getting ready to hire my daughter within the next few weeks. It's actually a successful cleaning company. It's been doing great for about a year now. But Jason was at a client's house that morning, and then he decided to go ahead and drive out to help me finish up this kitchen. I was going to just put the extra saran wrap and stuff that I found and just cram it into this cabinet, because that's where I could tell she had the rest. But then when I tried to, it was like it was packed in there so tight, I knew there was something behind it. So I just pulled everything out, and there was a bunch of rags and books and gadgets and just all kinds of stuff in there. So I reorganized all of her, I don't know what you'd call this, the baking implements of destruction. So all the aluminum foil went in this pile, all the parchment paper in this one, the wax paper in this one, Ziploc bags in this one. Then I folded up all of her rags and dish towels and put those back in there, because if she was already putting them there, I don't want to give another location where she has to go find them again. But now at least all that stuff is sorted and organized and a little bit easier to find. The pan cabinet was kind of a monster. She had a ton of lids. This is, every house has this. Just a massive amount of lids that had no pans to go with them. So I pulled out everything and then dusted out the actual cabinets themselves. Then I started stacking saucepans together and pots, then all the frying pans in another stack. And then by the time I was done, I was like, man, what am I going to do with all these lids? And then fortunately, she yelled out from the living room, I actually don't use lids hardly ever, which really gave us the green light to go ahead and put those in storage. So I pulled them all back out and grabbed a Tupperware container. And so now all of her lids are in one box, and we figured we could leave those either downstairs in the basement, or we could just leave them off to the side right there in the kitchen in case she ever needed one. They're right there. That's a good temporary solution. Now, it's important to note, I did not clean off any of these dishes. All of these are still covered in a thin layer of dirt and dust. She's aware of it. I mean, she's been living in this for a long time. I did not have time to clean all those dishes. I would have been there for another full day had I done that. So I just let her know, hey, the cabinets and the counters are clean, but any dishes that you pull off of there, you're going to need to rinse off and wash out before you use them. It's a smarter way to do it when we're crunched on time, is that way she can pull out a dish, wash it off, use it, and then it goes through the dishwasher, and then she could maintain it from there. So it's basically cleaning dishes as they pass through her hands. If we would have had another day, I would have pulled out everything from every cabinet and washed everything by hand and then put it all back in. So you see all those drawers and cabinet doors, and then the ones with glass on them. I didn't take anything out of these, and all these are crammed full of stuff. That's going to be another project that I'm going to do at some point in the near future. If we can get all the old stuff out of that and separate it out the way we did the food and dishes and all that stuff, This will open up a whole new dimension of storage space for her, and it will solve so many storage problems for this kitchen. But again, after 20 hours, we did not have time to do all those. That would have taken probably around 4 or 5 hours just to sort all the stuff in this area. So anyway, I'm pulling everything off of this section because it was pretty cram-packed full of stuff too. And there were so many tiny things everywhere, little like ink pens and bobby pins and change and just tiny little things everywhere. So once I got all that off, I could Mr. Clean it down and then turn this into a proper coffee area. Let me just stop for a second and admire that shirt, baby. Take it in. By the way, you can order those. I've got merchandise. We sell t-shirts and coffee mugs and stickers and all that. And we've got the Jason Filth shirt. We've also got a Team Jason shirt for those of you who are also filth and want to show your support to Jason. We've also got t-shirts that have all kinds of my dumb catchphrases on them, like, hey, look, more dishes. And that's how I roll, son. I'll leave a link to that shop in the description. Basically, it's like the design is right there, and then you tell it what you want the design on. It's through TeePublic. While I'm at it and doing shameless plugs, we're trying to get to 1 million subscribers here on YouTube. And so far, my TikTok channel is beating the crap out of my YouTube channel. So I'd kind of like to show up TikTok and make sure that YouTube stays ahead of their game. But if you could throw me a quick subscribe, that would be awesome, because we already have the silver plaque, but I really want the gold one so I can rub it in Jason's filth face and show him how much better I am than him. Because that's how I roll, son. I just roll better. And then one last thing, and I'll quit annoying you with this stuff. I've got a members only section where you get extra videos every Wednesday and extra posts. Do not join that if you can't afford to do stuff like that. It's like $4.99 a month. We have maybe 400 or 500 members in there right now. It's just a way to show extra support for the channel, because I pay for all these free cleanings out of my own pocket, and the money from that just helps support things like chemicals and new vacuums and mops and brooms and just the time I have to spend putting up with Jason's big giant filth head. But I'll put a direct link to the join button in the description as well, because sometimes people have trouble finding that. We're actually nearing the last of the cleanup here. This was like one of the harder parts. Now, I didn't show it on camera just because, quite frankly, I forgot. But there's a dresser or a desk to the right of this area, and you can see a giant pile of paperwork over there. I did take all that off and put the papers and everything away and reorganize that and clean that as well. So it did look way, way better once I got that done. Gonna slow that down a little. Check out how dirty my pants are. That didn't come from the road. That came from just the kitchen. Those were blue when I started out. But I could actually slap my pant legs and the dust puffed off like Pigpen from Charlie Brown. Now, toward the end, I had Jason go ahead and unload the dishwasher and then load it up with new dishes because, I mean, why not? We're in there. I wanted to get some good after pictures and I didn't want the sink to just be piled up with dishes. And the cool thing is, so he fit most of the dishes into the dishwasher, but there was like a load to a load and a half that he couldn't fit, so he just did those by hand. I don't show him doing the dishes, but I do show me cleaning the sink because that happens to be one of my favorite parts of kitchen cleaning, is taking a sink like this and making it look brand new again. And I can show you how in just 3 fairly easy steps. We'll get to that in just a second. All right, for the sink, I'm going to start with Barkeeper's Friend. If you have any open cuts on your hand, put on some gloves because this will sting when it touches. So I just wet down a scouring pad and I scrub this in, basically turning it into a paste, and then I just scrub it like it stole something. Then once I'm done, I'm going to rinse the whole thing off, then spray the whole sink down with Mr. Clean's Clean Freak and wipe the whole sink down with a brand new microfiber towel, one that I haven't used on anything else, because as I'm wiping this down, it's going to collect white powder from the Barkeeper's Friend. Now, even after that, that's going to leave a white residue. So what I do is I grab my APC, saturate the whole sink, and then wipe the whole sink down again with yet another unused microfiber towel. Then I dry the whole thing off with an ultra fine microfiber, and I get those off of Amazon. Very soon, I'll be selling those so you don't have to worry about trying to search them down. We decided to go ahead and we're just going to start a store where we sell the things that I use. That way, at least you know it's coming from me and not some third party that you don't know. And then when you see us start doing the floors, you know we're wrapping everything up. I also replaced the cat food and the cat water because as we're cleaning all this, a whole ton of dirt got into Sylvester's food bowl and water. I didn't think that was too nice of us, so I gave him some brand new stuff. For the mopping, I had Jason use our Bona system. In past videos, you probably heard me calling that Brona. That actually wasn't a joke, it was a slip of the tongue. Sometimes I watch TikTok too much and people use the word bro so much that it sticks in my head. So I was just calling it Brona. So somebody had asked me about it and said, do you mean Bona? And I'm like, oh no, don't. Brona is like a Bona except douchier. So anyway, we're using a Bona, and mainly because that is a really good system that doesn't leave any streaks, and it's got a microfiber towel on the end of it, so it's basically like washing the floor with your hands. And we'll get into the before and afters here in just a second, but like I said, if you haven't subscribed, please do. I think we got a real shot of hitting 1 million followers, and we're gaining tons and tons of subscribers every day. And if you don't, you can go straight to hell. Nah, I'm just kidding, man. Just subscribe. It would be awesome. Members, I will see you on Wednesday with a new video. Everybody else, I will see you next Saturday. Later.